economic problems in this country. And people began to look for an alternative, a different view of how an economy should be run around about this time in the 1970s. And this woman came along and she brought in the new right, the ideology of Thatcherism, the ideology that no, it's not the government, but it should be allowed to the free market to take control. The government should stay out, should not intervene, and we should throw our weight behind free market ideology. So, she took away laws, she took away the regulations which controlled business. She began to dismantle the welfare state. She began to cut away the National Health Service. She lowered taxes. She privatised industries. So the great industries of Britain, like the railways, coal, steel, gas, electricity, water, all these industries were taken out of the state and put into private hands. This is called privatisation. So they were no longer owned by the people, owned by the state, they were owned by private industry. And she rejected the ideology of state-owned industry. She said, no, the state has to move away and we have to allow markets to take over. We have to privatise industries, and markets are the best way forward. The free market ideology is the best way forward. And she also launched a war, that's what it was a war on the power of the trade unions, to attack the power of the workers and the power of the trade unions. Most famously, in 1984, the power of the coal mining trade unions. And this picture kind of sums up those years very nicely, I think. Some people were very, very successful on the back of Thatcher. People, certainly in the south, and the city, and London, the city of London, did very well. The new city of London rose out of Thatcherism in the east of London. And people made a lot of money through deregulation of financial services, and the banks and the money markets did very, very well. And they were very successful. People in the north of England, the old industrial cities, now these industries were closed down, the production was moved overseas, the markets were allowed to take control, and people in the north did not do so well. And a lot of places to this day, if you go to the north of England and you mention the word Thatcher, well, just be careful. She died this year, in fact. She died in April. And you'd be surprised at the reaction. There are a lot of parties going on. She died this year. A lot of people celebrated the death of a very old, very frail woman. People were very happy. A lot of people thought that she destroyed this country. She destroyed society. Other people would have the complete opposite point of view. That she was the greatest Prime Minister. The Iron Lady. Depends who you speak to.
Em gửi mail chị rồi đây.
Anyway, the jury's out.
I have email to you. Pictures.
I'm a mere neutral observer.
This morning.
The north, the south. She was very, very successful though, because she won the election in 79, she was re-elected in 83, she was re-elected again in 87. She was kicked out by her own people, not by the country. She was kicked out by her own people, by her own party in 1990. November the 23rd, that was also a very big party, I remember it well. So she was Prime Minister from 1979 to 1990. That's a hell of a long time to be Prime Minister in a so-called democracy. But basically, she changed this country forever. Now the next important figure Oh, very much, yeah, as I'll explain now. Yes, very much. The ideology, yes. The other big important figure in modern political life is Tony Blair. Now, Tony Blair was the leader of the Labour Party before Ed Miliband. Now, Labour had not been in power from 1979 to 1997. That's a long time for one party to be in power in a democracy. So the Conservatives were the government of this country from 1979 and then after Thatcher through to 1997. So by my maths, that is 18 years. That's a long time, 18 years. Well then, along came this man called Tony Blair, and he thought, how can I get Labour back into power? And he thought, the problem with the Labour Party is it's too far to the left. And people in the South are too frightened of voting for a party which is too far to the left. So Blair thought the only way Labour can get back into power is to move the party to the centre, or more to the centre, to stop frightening the people in the south of England. So basically, he repositioned the party. He moved them from the left more to the centre or centre-left. He did this by appealing to supporters not just in the north, in the traditional heartlands of the big northern cities. He rejected the ideology that the state should own industry. He rejected the ideology that the state should own transport, the state should own gas, the state should own electricity, the state should own power, the state should own coal and steel and iron. He rejected all that, and he embraced a lot of Thatcher's ideals that the market is king. So he kind of adopted a lot of Thatcher's policies, and this made people in the South more comfortable with the Labour Party. And also, he changed their image. Their image, their slogan used to be the tools of the working man and the tools of the working woman to represent the working class. So he changed that logo to a national one of the red rose, and he gave the Labour Party a softer image. He also changed the role of the influence of the trade unions on the party. So under Tony Blair, the trade unions had less influence on the Labour Party. And he was very, very successful. And Labour had a very famous victory in 1997, and the Conservatives were kicked out of government. And Tony Blair subsequently became the first Labour leader to win 3 elections. He won in 1997, he won in 2001, and he won again in 2005. No Labour leader in the history of this country has ever won 3 consecutive elections. So Tony Blair was massively successful. And to answer Gutch's question, he did that by moving Labour towards the centre and becoming almost like, not quite like Thatcher, but adopting a lot of her ideas, a lot of her ideologies. Who is this man? So, how do elections work? If you're not from